Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist, humanist, philosopher, and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, ignosticism, atheism, anti-theism, anti-religionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel.
Well, I just think a lot of people aren't going to change their minds without...
Well, they won't. They won't change their mind.
Yeah. And if people are going to hurt other people...
My goal is not to try to change your mind. My goal is to try to change your heart. Your mind has never been the problem. It is always the ethics in our heart. I mean, it always is. Ethics is the hardest shit in the world. We have to do that which does not appeal to our emotions. Dude, it's the hardest thing in the world. Oh, it is.
I don't specifically disagree, but I don't see that you can change the heart of a Nazi with anything less than physically stopping them.
So if I can't physically stop Nazis, I need to do what exactly? Have the ethical behavior for everyone else to follow. I need to have a standard. Nazis don't, but I do. You know how I hold Nazis accountable? Not by punching them, but by telling them they are monsters, they have unethical, harmful ideas that justifiably need to be challenged. I will go in public and I will challenge them. I will hold their ass accountable. If they want to say otherwise, that is fine.
But when you're not around, they're just going to be violent.
Dude, I'm not anti-violence. I am anti-aggression. So what I mean by that is that I do not initiate unethical behavior. But if you commit unethical behavior to me, well, then now I am now into a different interaction with you, am I not? The thing about ethics to me is that one of the greatest things is when we can hold ourselves to a standard that's universal. It's hard. In other words, I mean by this, so that's why I laugh when Christians don't do this, right? Christians will go, Damien, you can't say that God is a genocidal maniac just because he killed everyone on the earth with the flood in the Bible, because...
I'm sorry, that was really good, the phrasing there.
But because, Damien, you need to understand God is different. See, morality, it changes when it's a different person. See, no, that's not morality. That's emotions. That's ego. You know what? My ego would love to punch everyone, not just Nazis. Trust me. Everyone who says shit I don't like. Seriously. As soon as they're a bigot, I like just anyone who's a bigot. Just be able to just punch them in the face, right? But is that what I would esteem as the highest ethical character I can behave in? I want to know, am I different than these other people? And then how does everyone know? You know, I've been told by people that I'm one of the nicest people in atheism. Not because I'm trying to be somehow better or nicer than anybody. I hold myself to a standard. I'm going to be a good person. I don't go but.
I would like to bring up the paradox of tolerance, but seeing as we all just started hitting the record buttons, maybe we should do some introductions.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm not saying that I tolerate them. See, don't get that wrong. No. So can I not tolerate them without physically assaulting them?
Depends on the person. It really does. You can tolerate, without being physically violent, people who won't initiate violence.
So how we teach others to not be violent like Nazis is to be violent like the Nazis, right? To have indiscriminate violence just like them. How we get rid of bigotry, I guess we should do the same way, right? Be a bigot to get rid of bigotry. The worst bigots, let's be super bigoted to them, because that'll teach them not to be bigoted.
We can look at the actual
peace is tons and tons of war. Trust me, tons of war.
Hey, we can look at the actual results, though. If a society tolerates people who are violent, those people then use violence to get rid of the tolerant people. You can't have a society that tolerates the violently intolerant.
Right, but did I mention any tolerance for violence? I hold
you heavily implied
accountable myself and them. Violence, harm that is not in direct protection of self or for the protection of others, to me is suspect. And saying that you're going to harm someone who's not currently harming you, to me is the same as I'm against the death penalty. Not because they don't deserve to be harmed in some emotional thing. Of course, that all people that do harm should be harmed, right? An eye for an eye, right? I mean,
no, that's not where I'm going. I'm not advocating eye for an eye. I'm not saying after the fact, and I'm against the death penalty too. What I'm trying to say is people who will initiate violence against those who are non-violent need to be stopped before it happens. If we look at, and that's why I go straight to Nazis.
Mean that they're coercively getting in a position of immediate harm with immediate ability to harm, and we are doing that. When I go in public and I challenge these behaviors,
more than that,
So I got a question for you. Do you think more people on their side are moving to thinking differently by punching them or by Damien holding them accountable to morality that they are violating?
Well, we've had nonviolence since World War II in the U.S. towards Nazis, and Nazism has grown. And so when we start punching Nazis, they have to receive.
That's the cause and effect. So is Antifa grown.
When we start punching them, they stop, and not just punching, but blocking them from social media, deplatforming them.
Oh,
when we
I have no problem blocking them. Oh, I don't know. That's a different issue. That's not physical harm.
Physical harm isn't some magical line that we shouldn't cross because
it's not a magical. So morality does not have any difference for physical harm.
No, I'm not saying there's no difference. There's a gradient. It is possible to kill someone by financially depriving them, but
so
that doesn't make
that the gradient though would start on the side of harm and not good, and just become greater not good. Not that somehow it is good and then magically is changed because of just the issue.
All right.
But anyways, like you said, let's first start with
introductions.
Tell us who you are. I think some people would know. I'm Damien AtHope, and I'm an axiological atheist, which is a value theory or a value science atheist. I happen to be a value theorist because I'm a philosopher, not very good at math, so I don't get into that calculus and stuff needed for formal axiology, which is value science. Although I value a lot of the stuff that they use. And go ahead and my guests, I actually have two people, and could you go ahead and tell us who you are and a little bit about you?
Okay, took me a moment to unmute there. I am Mako. I am co-host of the Dysevidentia Podcast. And
could you spell it for us?
Mako.
No, I meant the podcast because that is a name that I could not got just by you saying that.
Actually, going off of memory, because the Dysevidentia is a word that Sqeaky made up, and
I thought it was a word in a dictionary or something.
Okay.
So I would like it to become a word in a dictionary, but I copied from dyslexia and dyscalculia. Dysevidentia is the inability to use evidence, just as somebody with some other inability to do things. And we try to tackle this, and we try to do it without being overtly hostile to people. But sometimes the hostility is necessary. Let's not go there, except we did already before we started this discussion. Mako.
Here's the thing: is it not a valuable discussion?
Yes. You asked for the spelling.
Yeah, you said before the discussion. I was just saying, is it not a valuable discussion? I wasn't.
Yeah, it's definitely valuable to have. It just meant that we did it all before the introductions. So
true. Yeah,
this is going to be super fun to edit.
Well, things happen, I guess. But I don't generally edit that much unless there's something that just needs to be removed.
Oh, I do tons of ums and ahs and like mouth noises. Yeah, there's a lot of editing on our end. We try to make ourselves and our guests look good.
Yeah, that's cool. I've done that before. Video editing is not my thing. It's like I think even I blog. So I started differently than some people. But go ahead and tell us a little more about you. How did you get into what you're doing, and what inspired you to come up with the name and the podcast?
Okay, I'll go then, Mako. Yeah, okay. So I'd been a software developer for about 20 years. I contracted. I bounced from job to job. And I felt that software development was a very evidence-oriented profession. I'm constantly doing something, experimenting, observing the result based on the inputs and the evidence I have. And sometimes you get to counterintuitive results. So I had this incorrect notion that all software developers were highly logical and highly evidence-based because I thought I was. Right. And in this one thing, I was very, very wrong. And I learned that when I was carpooling, not one day, but for 6 months for the duration of a whole contract, carpooling every day between Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska. And I got in a repeated discussion, again, there and back, 45 minutes both ways, with a person who not just believed conspiracy theories that were baseless, but they believed conspiracy theories that were so mutually contradictory that people think I make it up every time I describe it. This person simultaneously believed in an Earth that was hollow and spherical, and an Earth that was flat and a disk. And they had no issue believing both of these mutually contradictory things, despite being a successful software developer with a master's degree, an ability to work with databases. C language is complex computer stuff that is very evidence-based, and they were a successful professional, owned multiple properties, rented some of them out, and you would think this is the kind of person who demonstrably should be intelligent enough to not fall into this. And even after seeing this, I refused to believe that some people just couldn't process evidence. And I kept running into them. And I feel this is the category most religious people fall into. We all do something like this some of the time for some topic. So I figured, well, I think I've broken out of this and I have a better lens to view it from. So let me make something and I'll cite a bunch of sources and bring someone else in who can check me in case I fall back into it. And that's how I brought up Mako, who I met writing software.
Yeah, that's great. Mako, could you tell us a little bit about you and how you got involved in this?
In the podcast?
Yeah.
That's pretty straightforward. Sqeaky asked me one day, hey, do you want to start a podcast? I was like, yeah,
so
sure.
You guys knew each other before? What about that?
Yeah, we've known each other for over 21 years now. We originally met at a card shop playing Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. I've never played that.
It is very geeky, and you warned us about getting too esoteric. If we go into that, we'll have to.
Well, and like I said, I don't have a problem with someone being esoteric as long as they then explain fully what they're talking about and not just keep throwing esoteric fact on top of esoteric fact. I'm like, it sounds like gobbledygook, logical fallacy. You're just trying to throw all this crap, and who the hell can even pay attention to all that? That's all I say. I feel like sometimes people do, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I'm not saying it's always that people, I know I have a lot of ideas and I think fast. So
I think I follow what you're saying. And gobbledygook logical fallacy does describe a lot of people's strategy playing Magic the Gathering.
I believe the technical term for that is scrubs.
Oh goodness, I just said we don't get hostile towards people, and you're calling out people by a derogatory name just because we knew a bunch of scrubs and we're scrubs doesn't mean we have to be mean.
Well,
yeah, I don't.
Everyone starts out scrubs.
So, to me, even though I don't play them, I don't play video games either. I don't like comic books or anything. I don't. How is that any different than things I do like?
Yeah, different strokes for different folks.
I like music, all kinds of music. So I just think it's odd how some people feel like some things are okay to put down or defame and other things are not. And the things that I find that people seem to be okay with are generally defaming people. And the things that there's a people, not you guys, but like the society is, don't offend ideas. People, who gives a shit? But ideas, oh God, don't do anything to them.
Yeah, the whole religious taboo is deeply perplexing if you haven't studied history. If you've studied history, it makes a lot of sense. It kind of organically developed out of a need to not kill each other. But it isn't the best solution to that. It just puts the killing off until tomorrow.
Well, yeah, to me, I see it, talking about historically, to me, I that's pretty much what I've been doing since 2006 is researching the evolution of religion. So I wanted to know it all. Because the biggest thing is, I didn't, at first, when I became an atheist, it was by accident, and then it's not like I all of a sudden, after that realization that I've been lied to my whole life, at 35, I realized this. That atheism was true and religion was false, and gods are lies. I also realized that not only had I believed this, but a lot of other people believe this. A lot of people that I thought I trusted were liars or were misinformed and didn't understand. And so it didn't make me run into the arms of anyone, not atheists, not anybody, because I now realize, holy shit, I need to be thinking about stuff more. I just have randomly been believing bullshit without really contemplating its value. And so
and religion puts you in a spot to make it harder to break out, and it does this a number of ways, right? There's the community aspect where you meet up with your church And if you question whatever the holy words are, if you question that, you're ostracized from your community as a side effect of trying to approach it rationally or logically. And then more insidiously, and a lot of people don't come at it this way, but every religion that I'm aware of tries to insert itself as an authority that is a place to get data from. Some are very overt about it. Like most of the Christian religions just say, yeah, there is a divine authority. And with Catholicism, there's even the Pope is, his word is sacrosanct. But even
I do agree that even I know
Yeah.
stuff, other religions in the Eastern and stuff, and it's still because you could just say, well, the difference is, like you said, the Pope. Well, who's the religious person? The Buddha. Okay, the Buddha. Oh, Lao Tse Tao. Okay, it's him. Or whatever. I mean, they just switch who supposedly is the thing.
Yeah, and well, okay, there's nuance, but I guess the nuance isn't important. The very notion that you can get data without having, or get knowledge without having worked for it, without actually having gotten some way to reproduce it or understand it, doesn't work. There is never been divine revelation that has worked as good as the simplest experiment you could reproduce.
Well, I mean, other than they just give it a blanket explanation for everything. Well, everything exists, thus does. I mean, so to me, the people in general, it's not that they don't like facts. They just don't like ones that disprove what they believe.
Gaining knowledge ways other than by evidence, and I tried to shoot down notions like divine right or divine revelation.
Yeah, but to me, it goes back to justification in general. Okay, so if you claim that God has some divine right towards knowledge, what do you mean by God? I mean, give me a good, solid ontology of what a God is. Not an ontological argument trying to excuse, non-evidential facts somehow into the reality factual world.
Yeah, all those ontological arguments are just ways to define a God into existence. Would you like, because our listeners will likely come at this from a more casual perspective.
Right.
Would you like to give us what your view on the ontological argument is?
Well,
or an explanation of it.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong way that I do stuff. I do not attack ontological argument. I don't read them. I don't know what the Kalam argument is. And that's the thing I don't address maybe some of the thinking is. What I mean is certain philosophers try to get in debates and then try to learn these things. I could care less. You are talking not you, but I'm talking about the
I know what you mean.
projecting absolute nonsense. I personally have a way of thinking. I don't need to go read what your nonsense is. Bring it to me. It'll get destroyed. Go ahead.
I've got some nonsense, and you'll destroy it.
Well, let's explain how. Because I do the hammer of truth. I do, which is a system of 3 types of philosophy: ontology, epistemology, and axiology. Always in this order. Because that is how you destroy them. The ontology, you demand a good explanation, the thingness of the thing that you're talking about. Believe me, if you do this, almost nobody can do it. Even if I said to you, give me a good ontology of what the word love means, that will be relatable to all situations and all things. I mean, because that's how it's generally offered. Love, and we're supposed to somehow navigate what is the actual use of this or application. But so we could constantly, everybody, what I mean by that is, we're fond of generalization. We're poor thinkers. We're emotional thinkers that assume everything that we know is everything because we're just poor thinkers. So we like to, in other words, like when you're a child, you don't think, I don't know anything. You think, I know a lot. My parents are stupid. And then you'll get older and you're like, wow, I didn't know that much. And my parents may have still been stupid, but I also was stupid.
You're entirely describing the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Right.
Just the idea that if you don't know a lot, you're really confident. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying, but I see psychologically as that's a general state of being. The reason I'm talking about that is we like to have what I think of as, in a sense, a balanced equilibrium of self. In other words, we like to feel like we don't like to feel unease. Like, in other words, which I call dignity attacks. When I attack things that are your character or your honor or your stuff, you start to feel unease, like real high, and especially when you know that I'm right. That really, because then you're under a dilemma now. Not only do you feel the dignity attack in a sense, like you said, you're past the Dunning-Kruger. Now you actually, if you have any understanding of what's happening, you feel powerless because if I'm right, you really can't attack me back in a sense, demanding or substantial way, which brings this sense of even greater inferiority of self, which of course causes generally people to get angry or they just leave, hide. So fight or flight, in other words. So yeah, all these things though are just natural. That's why I try to explain all the time is that I feel like that not only are we stupid, and not only do we think we know a lot, not only do we do this, we also, in a sense, have this plastic version of reality that comforts us. And so that's why, to me, like when we say free will, I think we have free-ish kind of will, but there's absolutely no sense of denying that reality. Besides, forget what you think science has or has not explained about will. Just in general, you know you're not, when you're the angriest, the most ready to make the best ethical decision. I mean, I know I'm not. If you think you are, man, you must be better than me. Because when I know when I'm raging, that's not the time to make Damien's life-term, a choice on what's ethical.
Not to bring up, not to segue from religion into another contentious topic, but we did just get done with a 20-year war that we stepped into in anger. I mean, yeah, we don't make good decisions when we're angry, even when lots of us are trying to make those decisions together.
Well, also, I think that some of that is the denial of actually going after Saudi Arabia or some of the real issues that were involved. I mean, I'm not saying that I feel like the government is a bunch of lies. I'm not saying that there wasn't people in need or things didn't happen. I don't believe in this 9/11 truther and all this that are nonsense. Like you said, but that reason I'm bringing this up because you said,
Yeah. I brought up the war. Yeah.
The war. Well, in the war and then the motivation for the war. I'm just saying, to me, the motivation for most of American, to me, imperialism is oil.
That's pretty common.
Or some other riches or thing. I really hate this nonsense of saying it's humanitarian, because if that's true, then we should be helping all the places that need have humanitarian crisis with some kind of a nonsense dictator. I mean,
in our last episode, we got pretty angry at Biden because he did some nasty whataboutism stuff. And you're right, he was just lying. He was saying that we don't have any ethical obligation to help the people in Afghanistan because we don't have any ethical obligation to help the Uyghurs in China. And like, that doesn't hold at all. And I wouldn't accept that argument from a Republican. Why would I start accepting that kind of whataboutism from Biden?
Well, yeah.
Really
by the way,
disappoints me.
I attack anybody. I mean, not I think attack's wrong. I challenge. I challenge anybody. Socialist, anarchist, someone who believes 100% like me. I'm still chat. In fact, I challenge myself because I feel like it's ethical.
I think challenging ourselves is definitely a good idea. I think the biggest challenge for Mako is his computer at the moment.
Well, and sometimes that happens.
He's just smiling and nodding. The microphone's not even going.
Well, but I appreciate, that you guys are addressing this. I mean, because in a sense, you're addressing things like philosophy and religion, both subjects that people, seem to not have grasp on.
Yeah, and they're huge. We try to take little bite-sized chunks at a go. Like last episode, we just discussed falsifiability because so many people were making claims about Afghanistan that we just couldn't know. So many, and normally we're very liberal leaning, but on this one issue, we leaned a little less liberal because so many liberals were making claims that Biden had this awesome master plan. And I'm like, but we have no evidence for that. Maybe that's true, but we don't know. And then so many conservatives were like, this is a horrible, unmitigated disaster. This would have been so much better with any other leader. I'm like, well, we don't know that either. Why don't we make real claims? Why don't we look at real things? We evacuated 100,000 people and had 13 deaths. That's not great, but it could have been so much worse.
Right.
It was.
Well, this very important thing I deal with all the time because I'm trying to package 6,000 pages of knowledge into like a 200 and 300 page book with art. okay, on subjects that I know most people have no fucking clue of prehistory.
You could use clamps and glue. You could squeeze the knowledge into a smaller space.
No, so my point is, well, I'm dealing with prehistory. I'm talking about stuff people have they don't even understand at all. So stuff I say. So this is very important. It's very important for me to be careful with what I say, because in a sense, I have earned your trust. And to me, I need to try to be ethical. That's something about challenging myself. We need to challenge ourselves. Are we being as honest, as open, as thoughtful, as correct, as accurate, as justified, as whatever, valued?
Can I segue off into something ridiculous again?
Sure.
You're saying that with an audience comes responsibility to be accurate and correct. And then at the same time, Joe Rogan, a national personality, is taking ivermectin and bad-mouthing the vaccine. We have no evidence ivermectin works. We have a ton of evidence the vaccine works, and he's getting people killed with his careless and thoughtless words because his standard isn't as good as your standard. His standard isn't as good as me and Mako's standard.
Yeah,
and
well, he's not acting like
a
person to me. I mean, to me, like I said, I have an ethical responsibility, greater so because people listen to me. Greater even more so because even I've known this as a child. It's not new. From a child, I don't know why, but something about my personality, people want to follow me or listen to me and see me as a leader. It's just, instead of seeing that as I can do something, I realize, oh shit, well, I have a responsibility. And it reminds me of like that statement from, I think it's Spider-Man, where it says that those given great responsibility have, those given great power have great responsibility, or something like that.
With great power comes great responsibility is the thing Uncle Ben always tells Peter Parker moments before he dies.
Okay, well, I didn't claim to know comic books. My point was, I'm close to the point, and that is that, in a sense, once we have the ability to influence others, we have an immediate responsibility of what we're influencing. And so I agree.
Ooh, that's a great quote. That's just repackaging what you just said, just to make sure I have it concisely. When we influence the decision-making of others, we take on an ethical responsibility for what happens.
Well, an ethical responsibility for how we are influencing, not for what happens. I mean, in other words,
okay,
I say, right, so I say, don't go out and do violence. But if people go out and violence and say, well, Damien's wild ideas inspired me, I'm not somehow responsible for that.
Okay, I see what you mean. I'm just trying to get it down to a soundbite, and you're right. My first take on the soundbite wasn't great.
Well,
yeah, no, the sentiment is fantastic.
It's good to challenge. It's good to ask questions. So I hope you never stop. In fact, I always think this, any idea that's fearful of challenge, to me, just seems like a lie that is afraid of exposure.
I believe the word for that is dogma. Religion is what brought us together.
Yeah, I understand your point. The religion, I say this, I invented my own term called dogmatic propaganda, which is to me that these packaged religious ideas
is quite self-explanatory. Dogmatic propaganda, that is exactly how so many religions propagate.
Right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's the battle. The battle is dogmatic propaganda against disciplined rationality. So that's what I try to teach. I'm not a skeptic. I don't doubt that. I don't start with doubt. I require you to prove what you're saying. And then I require myself also to make rational judgments from the evidence, and then be open to change depending on or amending upon reason or evidence or whatever.
Here's one fine distinction that I've found myself needing to make more and more recently. Proof versus evidence. Right? Proof is we definitely know a thing. We have lots of evidence. This is the only way it could have gone down. And evidence is, one clue, one hint. Maybe evidence leads to a proof. But man, do we even have evidence for any religions? And you've gone into the archaeology. How much evidence is there for the different Abrahamic faiths?
Oh, well, forget Abrahamic. So to me, that whatever someone says, just me personally, that's just because I've studied. When I hear the Abrahamic stuff, I just want to laugh. I'm like, oh, you mean like the 8th generation religious? That's not. And I laugh too, and they go, the Holy Trinity. I'm like, dude, that is almost a theme throughout religion. That's nothing special. Because in a sense, they have three types of deities that relate to this Trinity crap. Starts in, to me personally, this goes back to, like you said, about facts. I know for a fact it happened. I think I understand like where and how or why. But those
Which things are you saying happened?
What I think happened is about 30,000 years ago, 35,000 years ago, the starting of these female figurines. Okay.
Ah, I see. Okay.
At the same time, they are looking at the moon because 32,000 years ago, even NASA knows this is the first moon calendar. Anyways, there's a bunch I could go on about. So these are hunter-gatherers that are on the move. People.
No,
on the
that's
move.
really interesting.
But people that are on the, that's why I explain it, because it's important to, once again, what am I giving you? The justification of why I come up with the claim that I do. Because I understand the different things. And I could actually show you, see this, see this, see this, see this. And I always, but here's the difference again. You know what I call that? That part is my speculation. I don't call it my theory, my hypothesis, none of that crap, because I don't know. I think. Boy, I think. And I show why. But
somebody who's basing their speculation in evidence probably has better speculation than people who aren't. And now I'm curious.
I agree. Well, that's but I wanted to. I try to teach people what is in a sense a etiquette of belief, like how we should approach belief, keep belief. Like to me, there's three things, right? Three processes of belief. To me, what you should do as a good thinker, in a sense. Which is what I do. I try to have reasoned belief acquisitions. In other words, I try to have a wall up of holding reason that anything that comes through has to sort of make sense before I believe it. But I already know I'm a fallibilist, a rationalist. So I believe we're all fallible. We're going to fail. I'll fail now, fail again later too. So I need to do something better than just that. I need to be paying more attention because guess what? Here's a fact. You're going to, by osmosis, just start gathering beliefs you should never have believed. And you're going to forget why exactly you grabbed it. And it may have been totally unjustified. But once we own something as ours or I believed it, boy, it's almost impossible to make us like just throw it in the garbage.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Right. So to me, that's the first thing is that we don't try to keep everything reasoned. We're not going to. We're going to fail. So you need more than that standard because that ain't going to do it. So the next standard to me is a good belief maintenance. That means all beliefs that we hold, we should every once in a while take any of them out, put them on the table, and start challenging the shit of them ourselves. Not even worrying about other people. Like my ideas sometimes are so backed up on, but not all of them. It's not like I'm perfect in every single idea. So I have gotten more and more detailed when I get more and more challenged.
Yeah,
so
nor do we need to be perfect as long as we accept the idea that as long as we accept that we aren't perfect, we don't need to be perfect.
Yeah, that's what I say too about it's a logical fallacy to demand we have evidence outside of our own mind or the mind of others that we can relate with. When people say that we have to be somehow, doubting reality exists, I find that ludicrous.
Oh, you're going full nihil. You're saying like full nihilism doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And also, as an axiologist, I would say that almost like they try to do with the God, the Pascals Wager, but in a sense, in a value sense.
Oh, we should probably define some of these terms. We should probably define.
People say like that it's better to believe than not believe and be wrong. Yeah, of course, that does assumes there's not thousands of gods. Or even that how about this? People religion don't get this. What if you're all wrong? There's still a God, but you're all wrong, and he hates all of you. I mean, it's just.
So just for our listeners, we should probably define a couple of these terms. Okay, can you define axiological? Because I don't think I understand that one.
Okay. Axiology is in a sense value science. Right, which is a value in an axiological sense is in a sense any field that makes a value judgment, which is like every other field like in the world, and you yourself, every almost action you do in your life, including animals, do axiology. Because in a sense, you look at and you assess value. If you weren't able to do this, you wouldn't even be alive. Our ability to look and try to grasp the value of things, we're just shitty at it. We're generalizations. Oh, that color looks like food. oh, blue looks like water. We're just dumb. That's
okay. So is axiology kind of the study of how we make value judgments?
It is something that helps us think. It is something that helps us make the judgment. It's something that helps us evaluate what judgment to make, what judgments are good to make, what in a sense, it like gives the momentum for like meta ethics, like why there's the ethics of ethics. Why are ethics ethical? Why is one thing ethical and not another? I mean, when you start asking what is valuable, what is true, what is accurate, every one of those are axiological judgments. When you said proof is a judgment. You have claimed, you don't, so even when you show something, if I showed you, hey, look at this, that's proof. You're like, well, I saw something that was, but when you mean proof in a sense, then you're talking beyond just the actual thing. You're talking about a presumptive value judgment that you made to come to the conclusion that what this is equaled the container of what would equal proof or whatever. So you've made a value judgment. Every single one you make is an axiological judgment. Everyone's making these, but they make them unthinkingly. They make them without standards. They just like emotionally, randomly choose stuff. I mean, that's like choosing pizza toppings or something. But you've applied, not you personally, I know, but I'm saying a lot of people apply that kind of behavior to their life. They just randomly, emotionally choose their value structure. I'm not talking about what they actually end up.
I think I follow. And we could go down that rabbit hole a long way. But before we do, I just want to define those other two terms for the listeners.
Okay.
Nihilism and Pascal's Wager. When I said nihilism, I meant the very shorthand version of it, where people believe that they are the center of the universe, and it's way deeper than that. And I'll link to something that we can
So I would say
to.
nihilism, because when you said that, an axiologist and nihilist to me are the exact opposite.
Oh, yeah.
An axiologist is a person who
I brought up nihilism.
Value and understands or how to transmit or does transmit value understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Nihilist is the belief that knowledge of value cannot be known or is not such thing as accessible as value. And thus, there is no such thing in a sense, but subjective.
That's probably a better definition than I had. I'll defer to you on that one.
Well, I'm going to say, because I attack these people, and I show them, oh, really? So why exactly is that so? And you tell me how you're getting out of evaluating to get to that reasoning. How do you not value to get to the understanding of that which is valuable and then make a value claim that you now have the valued understanding of the ontological accuracy? There is no such thing as value. It sounds like you've made quite a few value judgments to make.
That was so meta that I don't even have I don't know. That's so meta, I have to link to the XKCD comic on being meta. That was just very meta. All right, well, the last thing I wanted to define was Pascal's Wager, and I think I can be more accurate there. But Pascal put forward the idea that we should believe in a God because if we're wrong, there's no punishment, and if we don't believe in a God and God is real, then there is a punishment. So if you draw like a little square, a little grid where, you know, on the top is God exists, God doesn't exist. Down the side, there's I believe in God, I don't believe in God, right? You fill in what the repercussions are. That he put forth this idea that there's no issue with this belief side, so you should just do that because the risk is low, the payoff is great. And like you pointed out, the obvious counter to that is, well, you need to expand your chart to include all possible gods, including ones we haven't thought of yet.
Which immediately debunks the whole theory. Except for I'm just trying to use it in a more logical way, and I wasn't saying I use that. I was just saying something similar to that I see as the axiological answer to what do you do if you can't prove reality is real? Well, axiological answer is there a chance that people are harmed? And you say, if you don't act morally, there is a chance people are harmed if reality is real. And then the axiological say, if you don't act in the reality is not real, you've done nothing. But if you do harm and the reality is real and you assumed it was false, then you have actually caused harm. And it's, in that sense, it's an easier thing to just value-wise understand that the value lays in that you should not harm and that you should assume reality is real as presented unless you have some reason otherwise. That's it.
I think I followed you there. I was a little bit distracted. I was getting the link to the XKCD comic. Sorry.
No.
I feel like a little bit of a jerk now. I linked it to you, the second one.
Well, I mean, I understand, that's also why I don't always try to get into philosophy and talk in terms. I want to talk to people on reason, because I know that really all of it. That's like why I laugh when philosophers like, have you read blah 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 explains blah blah. I'm like, yeah, and all that is just an architecture of words that you've placed on top of reason. So
yeah, it's just sometimes nice to not have to come up with the argument on your own for the first time.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying there's not value.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying for me, I don't like talking like that because
I agree.
I haven't read. I have never read a book of logic. Just so you know, never. Sorry, people. They think you have to. I do a pretty okay job reasoning through logic, and I've never read a book on logic, and I've never read a philosopher. I have read Wikipedia, like little highlights.
I really enjoy reading some of Sam Harris's stuff. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate he went off the deep end getting all weird in recent years, but he had some good down-to-earth philosophy, is what I think you're trying to get at.
Well, no, I did like some of his stuff too. I just said I can't believe that a guy could write a book about morality that and explain it naturally and then not and even mention axiology one time. First off, the reason why I say this is because formal axiology does not support, in a sense, a direct thing for gods having value outside of people claiming them to be. That's the formal axiology, in a sense, stance, which people, of course, challenge because it sounds atheist. But they're just saying, which to me is rational as an axiologist, how the fuck am I judging something I don't have any facts to judge?
It seems like in axiology, you would place a high value on evidence. And if we had a lot of evidence for a god...
Well, reason.
I'm sorry?
Reason, but that to us would be just another form of evidence. So
I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah. And when I say evidence, I don't mean it has to be scientific evidence, right? Like, well, I have evidence you exist because you're talking to me.
Yeah. Well, I just say that because I've dealt with people that are skeptics, and I'm rationalist, and just sometimes how I use words or approach things is a little bit different. It's not, we may both, in a sense, almost come to the same conclusion, like we both believe religion is nonsense. It's just that their way is more doubt-driven. Mine is more getting down into the stuff and reasoning through it. It's just different.
Those both make sense to me to a point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah. No, I think it's great that they tear the shit out of some fucking fallacy crap. So I mean, I'm not. That's why I try to help people understand. When I keep saying I'm not a skeptic, it's just because I want you to understand that everyone in the atheist movement is not a skeptic. I'm a rationalist. No problem with skeptics. I use methodological skepticism. But for me, all that means is, in a sense, is almost like a sentence that we should have a good standard of holding all beliefs open to challenge and amendment and removal. Always. Done. That's methodological skepticism.
Doubt even this.
Well, no, be open to stop doubting or start doubting this if there is reason and evidence to do so.
Well, I'm just saying that
justified. You should be ready to challenge everything. Doesn't mean
I was just trying to put a pin on that by saying that even this idea, right? If this idea can be replaced by a better idea that's better supported by evidence, do it.
That's like one guy said that to me. He said, Damien, you always talk so smart, but are you saying you would even challenge that? I go, certainly. Can you show me that it's more reasonable to not test my thing and just let a whole bunch of beliefs just run it over my mind? You can show me that that's more reasonable. Hey, maybe I'll entertain it.
That idea was the idea that we should be open to new ideas that have an appropriate level of basis, right? That's your core idea, right?
That is, well, then, because that would be axiology. That you value judged accurately. I mean,
yeah. But just that idea could have come packaged with other stuff, right? Like a religious person could easily say, be open to good ideas with good basis because God said so. Well, okay, well, now you need to be able to challenge this idea because God said so part isn't useful and could bring along other needless baggage.
well, and usually the problem also is that we have to identify what is good, because we already are having a problem right there. And often, I always laugh when people go, "Oh, Damien, it's all subjective," and I go, "You must not listen to me debate people, because they'll find out really quickly that is actually not true."
I'm not going to go into the subjective, objective argument. I don't.
Well,
we can go on forever there.
I'm an axiologist. Unless you can somehow debunk axiology's ability to understand and evaluate truth, which that's what it's doing, which when you say something is good or proof or evidence, whatever, if you could make all those claims, something is evidence, meaning more than just you have some tangible, even if it's a fact in the world, like an eco-fact, they call it, in archaeology or something, like a piece of dirt or something, or a rock. Even if you have that, when you say evidence, you're really meaning this piece of something, right, contains or relates to in some way some justification. So you're saying it's connected to this larger concept or thing or whatever. That's what makes it evidence, not just that it's a thing. In other words, is every rock that someone picks up evidence just because it's in a general area? Or is there a reason something is labeled evidence and not evidence?
Evidence needs context. And the context
requires evaluation, and evaluation is axiology.
Sure. I think trying to keep it practical, a lot of people can step back just one step. And if that context is a geologist, right, then every rock can become evidence for something. But for most people, no. Most people don't have the expertise for that. But most people have some expertise and some knowledge and some environment where they can get a lot of information, a lot of evidence out of what they know. Like,
Right, but I was trying to talk about good epistemic attitudes. Because if I tell you evidence and I show you and prove to you, it's way better if I teach you how to think about approaching and relating to evidence, or to what you think could be, or relating to ideas or approaching ideas. If you understand, grasp doing that well, I think that's a lot. Because in a sense, I feel like if I teach you one thing wrong, I have to teach you every single tiny thing. But if I teach you to understand how to think correctly, then you start yourself noticing, like me, all these inaccuracies.
Yeah, absolutely. Teach people how to think, not what to think.
Right. That's why someone goes, "Oh, you try to teach atheism," and I go, "I don't teach atheism. I teach how to think." The result is generally atheism.
And that's also why so many atheists come to so many similar conclusions on things, right? Like, how many bigoted atheists are out there? How many homophobic atheists are out there? It's very, very few, but we just don't have good basis to start off with homophobia or racism or other isms.
Well, to me, that once again, that's a different issue you address. Two different ones. One is there? The other one is, can they justify it reasonably? And we know the second answer is no. They cannot justify it reasonably. And they certainly can't appeal to what God says. So yes, I would agree with you that no, in a sense, reasoned...
Yeah, and I'm not saying no atheist. I'm just saying the preponderance, most of us, right? There's always some weirdo.
Oh yeah, but there's some that are bigoted, but I've met them. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if they're bigoted. The question is, are they justified? Because what I'm saying is, people try to go, "Oh, atheism has bigoted." Let's assume that they did, but that doesn't mean that it's like the religious. When if there's an atheist bigot and a religious bigot, an atheist bigot is justifying it by themselves, and a religious bigot often is justifying it by their religion. So it's different. That's all I was trying to say.
I follow, yeah, and I largely agree with that.
Right? I mean, There's certainly no atheist doctrine that says, "Hell, we need to be bigoted." I mean, there's not.
No,
In fact, there's not even atheist doctrine that says you have to follow science. In fact,
there isn't atheist doctrine.
There's no atheist doctrine. In fact, I did a video, 45 minutes, with this nurse about intersex and stuff, and it didn't work. I freaking.
Yeah, we'll be able to get something usable out of this.
So that really, made me mad. To have a long conversation, it was good. So then I tried to just talk. I did a live chat. Just tried to talk about it. But once again, even then, it goes back to. I want to talk about this because it relates to evidence. So sometimes people understand. When I say like my thing, just to be accurate, like about details. So I had female nipples and kind of like pseudo breast tissue or something my whole life. Okay, but having that doesn't mean that's an intersex issue. So people confuse. When I say, what I mean is I have that, plus I have other issues, and I even had my testosterone checked, and the doctor told me it was lower than most women at the time when I was 20 something. I don't remember, 24, 26, I don't remember now. 23, I'm not sure. But so there's multiple things. Now, all that together, and a lot of times intersex issues will cause male breasts or cause other issues. So when I'm not, so that people get confused. The thing like when I say hidden penis, that has to be that I'm saying that itself is an intersex, or that having male breasts is by itself. I'm not saying it is, but also understand this: intersex is a label, like I was talking about labels, that people, a society just decided to put on things, saying that these don't match the standard definition of what we consider to happen normally to male and female. But this is society's choice. It's like someone said to me, well, some things that people could say that think they're intersex related, and us scientists or someone else may think not. Yeah, and if you ask 4 doctors, you're going to have different opinions about what they think about intersex. So I'm going to bring this up about evidence. So sometimes I realize how I talk, because I'm talking of feelings. I just say this, and I'm not actually saying it, but people inference into what I say. you know what I'm saying? Like read, almost read it more into than what I'm saying, or they're not listening to the full thing of how it all relates. So. But it reminds me of, do I listen to understand, or do I listen to attack? Or sometimes I have to challenge myself, because people will say things to me and I just want to attack them. I mean, like a bloodthirsty, I desire to do it, but I go, is this beneficial? Is this how I should act? Is this the best behavior? And for some people, they let themselves go. I don't just allow for myself anger to become an unethical behavior.
So earlier, okay, so on ethics, there's a huge social aspect, right? Because you're getting.
Say what I think real quick about that, just so you know. To me, morals are your personal thing, just you. People get this confused. For me, ethics is only social. Go ahead.
Okay, so then I'm going to muddle that a whole bunch. Sorry about that. I'll just apologize up front. But morality and ethics, there's a huge social component, because so a lot of people, like we were mentioning, just gain their ideas by osmosis, just by existing in a culture, right? And when a culture gets large enough, you can have enclaves of different ideas. One church or one hate group or one online circle, right?
Or even several atheists.
Yeah, and if we're trying to discuss ethics with people who can retreat back to their little enclave, right? I guess from your view, would you say that that people's morality is informed by the ethics of their social group? And doesn't that make it hard to dissuade people from unethical behavior that works in their little enclave, but doesn't work in the greater society?
Well, people, in a sense, to me, are tribalistic with their morality, really.
I totally agree.
We talked about earlier. If it's our people, that's why I'm a socialist, right? Socialist, anarchist, but I never say communist, even though I probably have some ideas that are communist. But
it's just a loaded word in our society, so saying it destroys the conversation.
Yeah, but anyways, that's not even what I was going to say, because I'm fine with someone saying I'm not a communist. Whatever, it doesn't. My point is, all that stuff, like you were saying, was words. So, what is the behavior I'm really caring about? What is the behavior I really? What is the goal I have? My goal, if you ask me real quick, what's my goal? Human flourishing. That's what I want. I want human flourishing. That's surviving. I want flourishing. That cannot happen with war and violence. It cannot happen with unequal hierarchies. It can't. Some will flourish, but it won't be human flourishing. So to me, it's not.
I totally agree with your sentiment that I would not like to be in the society where just the people running wars are the ones flourishing. Yeah.
Well, and even let's just say that someone said that peace is the only way. Okay, and they said to get peace, we have to remove all of our ideologies, or let's say we have to all wear the same clothes. That this is the only way, because then we'll all be the same, and like lurker drones, and we won't hate other people because we won't have any sense identity outside of all.
Okay, so we have a hypothetical fashionicide enforced by drone. I follow.
Well, to me as an anarchist, all I'm saying is that you've added an unnecessary value. To me, the value I need you to hold accountable to is the desire to be a good person. Not the ability, not the attainment, the desire. It is amazing what we will allow ourselves to do when we allow ourselves to not even feel that we can seek something.
So the problem with this, well, okay, this is not the problem with this. I agree that we should all strive to be good. But when the Nazi can return back to his enclave of Nazis in his hate group, and the Nazis are telling him that hating people is good, he is doing what you're saying. He just has a different definition of good that's bad.
The only one that are doing this. I'm just questioning, because I mean, like I already told you, if we're going to punch people, I don't understand why we're limiting it to Nazis. And it just
No, I'm not limiting it to Nazis. They're just a really good example.
So it is totally acceptable to punch lots of people that we disagree. If
we disagree, that's not the threat. That's not the threshold. The threshold is punching people's okay if it will stop them from preemptively hurting people who are innocent.
And you think that punching them has made them stop. In fact, what's really happened is now they come armed, ready for battle now. They bring in shields and helmets and crap. So I don't think that the punching them is actually
the less numerous extremists do.
Well, what I'm saying is, yeah, but it to me is being an extremist in an unethical way to punch a person who is not physically harming you or another person. It is.
Well,
it's an extremist to me.
But you study history, right? You study history, right? What happened?
Who does that are acting like violent extremists.
What happened?
Because I'm saying, but this thought, this unethical, value negative thought, that it is okay to do one behavior simply because of this, is completely a logical fallacy. If you choose to accept it, that is fine, but you accept the dishonor of yourself in doing it. Period.
Just you study history, right?
You could say you don't like, so cops, as long as the person did it wrong, cops should just beat everybody up, right? Totally okay.
I think you're putting a lot of extra baggage on my stance here. I'm coming at it from a very practical standpoint. We have really good evidence.
About a value judgment, correct?
We have
your value judgment. It is okay. That's a value judgment. The value is the okay or the goodness, right? Some level. If it's okay, then it has to be some level of good, because you're not possibly saying that it's okay to do some level of bad, right?
No, I am. It is okay to do some level of bad some of the time, because we cannot in every case make a decision that is always good. Sometimes you only have bad choices. So you just pick the least bad choice.
You don't have to hit people. That is absolutely a choice.
Sure. But what if by not hitting
In fact,
someone,
I
what if
have
not hitting
challenged
someone is a
Nazis.
greater harm than hitting them?
I have hit Nazis. So does
Okay,
that make
yeah.
it better? When I was in the
It depends. It really depends. I'm not even saying punch all
He
Nazis.
threw a rock towards my head because I would not support him when I was 17. He was another Nazi. There was some ethnic people near us, and he wanted me to acknowledge him, and I told him, fuck you, I'm not a Nazi. And then he threw a rock toward my head, and then I proceeded to later hit him in the back of the head so hard that he bounced off of the dashboard. And I should have gone to jail.
I suspect the cops were okay getting rid of a
Yeah,
troublemaker.
well, he was. See, I know, but that's wrong. But he was. I should have gone to jail. The Vietnamese, because of course he was ethnic too, thought it was hilarious as shit to see me do that. But I really realize now, no, that wasn't okay. I don't want Damien to think that's okay. You know what? If other people do, that is you.
So
I hold myself, seriously. And I hold the Nazis. The reason they're bad people, the reason I can value judge their vileness is simply because they never removed from my value stance. All dignity beings should respect all other dignity beings, or at least have some attempt to. And the fact that they actively do the exact opposite, it makes it a problem because of their status of being a dignity being that had, like a power I told you about, they hold the responsibility. So
without violence, how could we have stopped World War II? The Nazis used violence to gain power, and people were saying, don't be violent to the Nazis, and they used violence to take over the country, a country that had significant industrial might. How could just words have stopped that?
I have a question. When I had clarified for you that I was not somehow passive or nonviolent in every circumstance, you did hear that, right? I don't remember if you remembered, because there's other things that happened. But I'll just clarify. I am not a pacifist. I will fucking kill someone if I have to. But I want to make sure that it's not because I'm doing an emotional decision.
I don't think we're going to get much out.
I want to make sure because it has to do for me personally. There's two things I said that I consider violence to be appropriate: self-defense and other defense. But once again, I think it should be reasoned, measured, just like, say, self-defense. If I say, if someone hits me, can I punch them back? You say, well, sure. And I go, therefore, can I still do it? Or does something change? Do I have some different responsibility? What if the Nazi is a girl? Can I punch her? What if a Nazi is a child? Can I punch them?
I think what's relevant is the likely outcome. I start all my morality from the idea of minimizing harm. Right?
And punching people for you that have not put you in direct harm are for you removing the harm as much as possible.
It varies from person to person, and it varies from situation to situation, because different situations have different inputs and will have different outputs. If I think someone, sorry?
No, I was going to say, it reminded me that when you were talking right now, you do believe talking is an effective way of removing people's previous bias, I'm assuming.
Some people. I think if someone's so extreme that we can honestly label them a Nazi, probably not. But most people, yeah, most of the time talking's great. You and I are talking. We don't need to punch each other.
Well, true. But so to me, it's not the bombs that always end wars, right? Often it's the fact that we communicate and try to mitigate, like you said, the harm. I mean, sometimes you have to destroy because people just won't stop, period. But,
and that is where my basis in the idea that punching Nazis is generally good. I can't assert that punching every single Nazi is good, but if there's a Nazi on a soapbox, he's spreading hateful ideas, and punching him will silence him for a day and at least prevent the spread of those hateful ideas to some potential Nazis, preventing them from ever being able to perpetrate violence from
and then I see a kid in the crowd that watches someone say that they're not for violence and against violent people being violent. And I guess my thing as a child would be to look at that and just go, I guess I can be violent for anybody I don't like. Or maybe that's the right answer. So the Nazi was correct to begin with, that violence is the answer.
And this all comes back to the paradox of tolerance, right?
No, it doesn't. I keep telling you.
How does this not come back to the paradox of tolerance?
I hold them accountable. No, it's accountability. It has to do with holding the value. Dude,
how do you hold people?
Feel ashamed? Do you think that people that punch them make them feel ashamed? They make them feel angry.
It shuts them down in the moment, which is the point.
That's what I do. I hold religious people accountable. Today I had people that were Jan trying to say things and calling me a clown.
Sticking with the Nazis, I don't know enough about Jans to
Jans are supposedly the nicest religion in the world, so I thought it was hilarious that they're being not nice and calling me names. I'm like, seriously?
I do know they're pretty extreme on the nonviolent front, but
I'm like, seriously, wow.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand this.
It's just I don't see how this doesn't come back to the paradox of tolerance, because how can you hold? Okay. So have you ever actually shamed a Nazi? Have you successfully shamed someone out of being a Nazi before?
Have I? Yeah, I have. I've shamed up out of being a racist, out of being religious. Yep. Out of being an addict. Done it. Yep.
I have not seen shame deployed outside of small social situations.
But have you seen people with the level of dedication to being a person of value that I hold myself? Really?
I haven't heard people talk about it, but I think I have.
Counseling work. Well, you must not have seen a professional, because when a professional counsels and they have experience and they're addressing the issues, dude, you watch them dig into someone's mind and pull out stuff that the person didn't know. But, I agree. Everyone can't do it. Everyone cannot be me. I put myself in a position that my own ego is below doing what is ethical. Seriously, it's that simple. My ego, dude, would justify all kinds of stuff. I'm telling you, it's ego-based. That's not how morality should be done. It's not ego-based. That's what problem I have with religion. They base it off ego, like the golden rule. Do unto others as you would like. My rule is no, do unto others as appropriate, which means you treat them all the same as dignity beings. That's what you do. Then when a dignity being, as you were talking about, like, I don't tolerate, a dignity being harming another dignity being is a violation. And I hold them accountable, just as much as I held that guy accountable for calling me a clown, the Jan. And then so much so, and I even told him his Jan ethics, is that how you talk to people? Because I never called him a name or Jan's a name at all, other than said they were sexist, or they have sexist, stuff in them. My point is, don't try to say Jan's has no sexism. Like, fucking please.
I don't know anything about Jan's and sexism. What's going on there?
Well, it has to do with several things, but let's just say one thing. The men, to be enlightened in a sense, you have to be naked and not harm anything, like you were talking about not harm.
Wait, hang on. Naked people? I could get into this religion. What's going on?
So, but only the men are naked. So, women can't be naked.
I'll take what I can get.
I know. I'm a nudist, so I would have gone, that doesn't sound bad. I mean, being with all naked guys, that's not my thing. But, I mean, being a communal of naked, male and female, I've lived that way. But, yeah, no, the Jans don't think that women could do that without shame or, I guess attracting men or feeling, anyways. So they're somehow also lesser because you can't, in a sense, Jans are not supposed to kill anything, including microbes or whatever.
I've heard that high-level Jans filter their water through, like, cheesecloths or whatever to not, hurt things, to filter out the life or whatever. I didn't know how extreme that was.
Well,
how true what I thought.
I'm not claiming all is extreme. So, once again, religion is a personal thing, and everybody does it however fuck they want. But there's different kinds of Jans too. So that's another thing too, like about accuracy. So when I say Janism is sexist, I'm not saying every single Jan. And if you think that, then maybe I'm either saying it wrong or you're just misinterpreting.
No, I didn't take that.
No, I don't know, but I meant as people try to misinterpret my thinking. That's what I was saying all the time. I'll say something, and they'll just jump on it like I'm intentionally trying to, mislead people. It's like, No, I'm not saying every single thing is sexism, but to try to say there's no sexism in Jainism, like any sect, any historical context, you're wrong.
Well, it sounds like that's because they're defining harm along some like strict physical harm line, and then they're ignoring economic or social or justice-based harm.
They'll say women can't. Some, not once again, some Jains will say women can't reach enlightenment without, in a sense, being reincarnated as a man. And some will say that some.
It comes back to dharma and karma, and they just feel that women are in a lower dharma. Okay.
Right. So you get what I'm saying?
It's just more religious-based bigotry.
But that's another thing. The one guy got mad that I don't accurately say all the stuff. Oh my God, I don't do your mumbo jumbo fucking stuff all the time. Guess what? I piss philosophers off because I don't use all their mumbo jumbo either. So whatever. Sorry. But this goes back to the thing, right? But it is dishonest to try to say that I am actively trying to be dishonest. If you've understood anything about me, that I may say something, not fully explaining, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to actively.
For any criticisms I have of you, I will not call you dishonest.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But they try to you didn't, dude. Seriously, have you ever seen my stuff? That's not me.
You're pretty out there and transparent. You're definitely not dishonest, and just whatever. They're clowns. We can ignore them.
No, that's like it goes back to talking about clowns. But so it's funny. I told him, I said, oh. This is why you said, can I reason with them? Or can't reason. Really? I don't know. Sometimes you can. Because it's a way you do things. I always tell people, you're correct. No one who feels you're an enemy is going to listen to you. Almost nobody. But if they think that you're a friend, like you feel I'm a friend, I guarantee you've probably accepted and even thought about more of how I've been attacking you or challenging you or bringing stuff up than you would if you thought I was an enemy. It's just, we're natural.
I totally take your meaning. You're absolutely correct. And we make that a recurring point in our show. Our primary goal with our podcast is to inform people so that way when these bad ideas come up from trusted sources, they can rebut them, or so that if they are in a position of trust, they can provide that seed of doubt. Because you're right. If somebody views me as an enemy, I can't convince them. I do try.
It certainly limits it. It's not that maybe
absolutely.
It certainly limits it. Even for me, I'm good at understanding how psychological. But
some people do try to listen to their enemies, but it isn't the norm. You have to put the effort in.
Well, so this also what I was going to say is that it's a psychological bias that I understand that goes with that. That when we like someone, we start liking their beliefs. We start accepting them way more than we would have ever if we didn't.
That strikes me as true.
We become more open. Like our ears, like all of a sudden become like, seriously? We listen way more. And so, but it's our human nature because you have to understand. It's like it's a social species thing that we do when we understand how we're supposed to think. So when we have a person we feel connected to, our mind, like the mirror neurons or whatever, automatically starts going, we should kind of think alike because it would be beneficial for our survival. And that's not really how you should think about beliefs.
Well, I think that is largely driven by evolution and cost optimization, right?
Yes.
It simply isn't possible. It didn't used to be cost effective, and today it simply isn't possible to do all of your own foundational research into every topic. You can't possibly be an expert in everything you need to be to function in society, so you have to trust someone at some point, and exactly what you're saying is the mechanism that evolution endowed us with to get there. And if you're in an environment where most of your peers believe correct and true things, you'll mostly believe correct and true things. That just isn't the environment many people are in.
Yeah.
Many people are in bad environments.
And it doesn't go with our nature to want to change. People are awful. And this is like they say that sometimes to learn new behavior, I think I don't know this is a fact, but I've heard this. I'm just stating it as I don't know. But They say it takes. I've heard that it takes like 30 days or longer, or whatever, to start become a behavior, to become like a habit. And I'm just saying in a general sense. I don't know if that's true, but in a general sense, I agree that we don't pick up things and become habits just doing it one time. It's really the repetition that gets us into this behavior. And that's also, to me, what becomes hard, is that things that we have felt really secure in, when they start to feel like unsecure, like how I felt when the first time that I became an atheist. I was told to do religious classes because I wanted to be a drug and alcohol interventionist counselor. And cool, because the one reason is because I want to help people. The second reason at the time was because also you made shit lots of money. If you could be a good interventionist, and it seemed like I had like the just natural skill, even in class, I was like blowing people away in school, including teachers. I started going, hey, don't some of those interventionists make like $2,000 something an hour? And they're like, well, yeah, but they have to fly places. And I'm like, I could fly for that kind of money, shit. But and so my goal, that's why I tell people, it's not like I sought out to become an atheist. I wanted to become a Christian interventionist counselor. And all of a sudden I became an atheist. So they told us to take these classes, 2 classes, one on world religions and then one on just the Bible. And I made it halfway through I went all the way through the religious classes, still believed in theism, but I started having some questions. And then made it halfway through the Bible class, and I was an atheist. I could not even make it through the whole Bible class. I started learning shit, and I mean, my beliefs were like, talk about cognitive dissonance, man. I was like, fuck, I was drowning. Holy!
That is a great way to make more atheists, is actually make people try to understand what their holy books say.
Oh, true, man. I was like, what the fuck? And where'd that come from? And this and that, and this archaeological fact. And that's also what got me into archaeology, was hearing the Sumerian tablets are older than the story in the Bible. I was like, wow.
Yeah, the whole documentary hypothesis is deeply interesting to me. I can't claim any academic credentials, but I love reading about it and going into it. And I can't even call it research because I'm not an expert there. I just know enough to know that the Bible doesn't have a whole lot of credibility. We need to take each claim with the evidence appropriate to that claim. You can't just say this whole book of the Bible or the whole Bible is true or false. It does cite some real events. But
I could say, about, like you said, historical events.
Yeah.
I could say that most of the people that we call Jews were part of the Kurgan-Ax culture, which are 2 rivers up near the Turkey border with Armenia and Georgia, I think. Anyways, way up there, that's actually where a large portion historically of the Jews, in a sense, what became the Jews, just to say, came from. Like Ashkenazi Jews, almost like, and there was different tribes. What's really interesting, talk about like Bible, like someone goes, oh, the Bible's got facts. I'm like, here's an interesting fact. They come from this area, yeah, right north of Mount Ararat. You know that place that Noah's Ark supposedly went? Yeah, that's where they came from. So anyways, they're from up there, north of Mount Ararat, northeast actually. But that's what, and this crazy thing, Mount Ararat had a volcano 4,500 something years ago. And when it did that, it destroyed maybe 200, 300 Kurgan-Ax culture people. Then those people then went down to Israel. And some went down and became the Kurds, like in North Iraq and all that, Syria that's now fighting. So the other branch, 4,000 years ago, went to Israel, and now the Israelis, Jews, or whatever. So, so historically, we know that where these people come from. There's this volcano that happens right almost like recently as they go to move, because they get to show up in Israel about, I think, 4,000 years ago. But anywhere 4 to 5, because it's just 2 different people are migrating. But anyways, and then after that too. And so when they show up, these dolmens are built that are like the people from the north. Anyways, it's interesting too that a volcano, because if you read like the Exodus thing, A lot of that sounds like a volcano, where it talks about pillar of smoke in the day and a pillar of fire by night, and God talked out of the fire, and the fire was consuming, or the God and in the fire was on top of the mountain. Yeah. Oh, you mean a volcano? Okay, got it. So I think that, to me, textually, if you read some of the stuff and you look at where they came from and stuff, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, some events appear to have reasonable backing, and some of them don't invoke miracles or magic, and that makes them a lot more plausible. And the ones that do invoke miracles and magic don't have similar backing.
Yeah,
it's almost like people stitched it together at different times for their own personal reasons.
Totally, right. So I think that, but I'm just saying, I think like that idea of this one kind of God, this mountain God that was killed people, in their culture, I think might have been an impetus to not just make them move, because they got scared living there. They moved. The fact that not just they moved, but we know that the fact that it killed some of them before they moved. And then later, these Jews, in a sense, have this, mountain god that's a volcano. I think is interesting. I find that, like you say about things, it's speculation. But I'll tell you what, that sounds a hell of a lot. But if you met, there's verses that make it sound like it. And like, do you know, here's another thing too. Ever heard the Leviathan explained? Tell me that's not also a volcano that's under the water. Because they talk about the bubbling and who can, withstand your heat, and like lamps coming out of your mouth. I'm like, I think someone once again doesn't know what volcanoes are. And if you look at the area of Turkey, shitloads of volcanoes. So that's also why there's a lot of minerals and, obsidian there.
I had never heard that explanation put forward. That sounds compelling. Like, I'd want to check sources and things, but it sounds good.
Oh, when you read it, it's like, woo. Yeah. Well, dude, you got to see my stuff. I've explained. Do you think that's impressive? That's nothing. I have other stuff that's even more impressive. But the thing is, like, once again, that's what I was trying to say about facts. It is a fact I know these people came. It's a fact these people have the DNA that related to the later Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, and stuff. Do I know for a fact that they got the mountain god there? I mean, it's a speculation. It's, I think, reasonable.
It's a really small speculation. Speculations can be gauged on how much of a logical leap is required.
It's pretty logical.
Right? Yeah, I mean, if my neighbor says that he has a dog, right, I have to speculate that he's trustworthy on the topic of him having a dog. If he tells me he has a dragon, that's a much bigger speculation.
Well, you need a lot more proof to make that claim seem. No, but that's another thing too, is I understand dragons. Once again, the reason I understand some of this is not because Damien magically decided like this. Like, some people, they do this. They don't really know about religion. I know a lot, but they don't know that much about religion. Like, they're atheists, and they look and they go, well, the few gods are storm gods. Thus, I think all religion started because of lightning or something. What the fuck? No, that's that bullshit.
That's a whole bunch of logical leaps, yeah.
I know that's not true, because the first religion is really animism, and animists are not afraid of nature. So that can't be. They think nature is magical, but they're not afraid of it. They think that, in a sense, it's not either good or evil, in a sense, sort of. It's like in balance, and so when it gets out of balance, the spirits or whatever, then there's a problem. But anyways, my point is, I'm just saying that everything starts in animism and about burial and souls. And I consider animism, in a sense, like all religious people are animists to me. They have animist plus something else. Because an animist is someone who believes in a spirit, supernatural. If you have any claim that involves this nonsense, then you're an animist. To me. I mean, also to, like, anthropologists generally, but maybe not philosophers. People don't.
Who cares about what this whole class of scientists think?
Yeah, people generally. Well, that's because some people try to challenge me because I say animism. And I'm like, have you read a book on animism? Because I have.
Okay, yeah, so I'm not going to challenge you on animism. I take you at your word. It's just hilarious that some people
challenge. I was just making a comment that I'm not talking out of my ass. You go read a Wikipedia page, and you think you understand. If you really grasp what it's saying, there's no doctrine of animism. That's not fucking. It's, It's not. It's like somethingism. It's just think of it. It's like the religion of somethingism. You go, what's there? I don't know, something. I mean, is that a doctrine? No. So I mean,
I'm just picking on your point where some people do just disregard whole swaths of doctors
exactly.
in science is ridiculous.
I agree. Like they'll say, "Oh, with Damien," but that's just their thing. I'm like, yeah, but here's the problem. I hear a lot of people that have supposed conspiracy theories seem to really hate on science. They also seem to kind of hate on you, or certainly they challenge you or don't like you. I happen to make a lot of claims, like way more than the average person, because I'm a rationalist, so claims are not frightening to me, as long as they're justified to some reason, and also I try to address them justifiably. But so the claim's not the problem. It's really, to me, about the issue of what's going on. So like you said, if I have done this for now since 2006, been looking at all the evidence, I start from 1,000,000 years, by the way, so people know, which it'll seem insane, but it's been hard. And I didn't say it was easy. 1,000,000 years till 4,000. Everything in between, across the entire earth, every single religion that happened in that time, Damien tried to at least be somewhat aware of. Because
I think that actually doesn't sound that crazy. It's just when we go back before 4,000 years, there isn't a whole lot of evidence. So studying all of that does sound like the kind of work a single person could endeavor to accomplish.
Yeah, well, everyone says it can't be done. Oh, no one will ever know, Damien. And I'm like, yeah, with that attitude, certainly science would never know fucking anything. What you mean is it's hard, Damien? That's not impossible. Hard. Maybe
and it's
impossible.
What are the limits of expertise, and what are the limits of our time? Because I think we should probably cut this soon.
Oh, that's fine. I talk for whatever, but as long as it's quality. Okay. So, my point was
Sure.
about like the stuff in science. So I want to show like that. Like you say, evidence. We have a lot of evidence. Actually, archaeologists, you would be shocked how much evidence. In fact, you're like, how does everyone not know that there's this much evidence? There's way more evidence actually than you think. That's the first problem. First problem is everyone has this fallacy that there's not as much evidence to say debunk religion as there is. There is actually shit.
There's a ton of evidence. Yeah.
Tons. But here's the first problem with well, why don't they do it? Archaeologists don't want to cause problems. That's number one to me. Second thing is archaeologists have to go work in countries where people are religious. Two things with that. A, could be harmed from the people that are fanatical now can access to them. And B, that the country could be fanatical and say you just can't even come here. So there's a reason why archaeologists almost don't address this very much. Because they really could. They come out and go bam, 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 like drop nuclear bombs on the world. Which is I'm going to do.
I think there's two other reasons in addition to what you said.
Yeah.
A lot of archaeologists are hyper-focused on some specific thing.
Oh, yeah.
And without the larger context, it maybe doesn't look so damning to their eyes. Or maybe they've already reconciled it.
I totally agree with you. That reminds me, this one guy, right? He says, I couldn't believe he actually looked at the pottery and still came up with this conclusion. It's not connected at all. Even though you could see it starting in southern China about 20,000 years ago, then moving up north into about 18,000 years ago, then moving north and what was that, east, northeast, and then north. End up getting in Siberia, I think, by 17 or 15 or whatever, 1,000 years ago. Then from there, it shoots all the way over to Finland and all that kind of good stuff. And it also drops into the Middle East. And
you're talking about a specific style of pottery?
Right. Well, pottery in general. Right?
Okay.
You see, so just so you know, there's like no pottery, and all of a sudden, there's pottery in southern China. And then those people move, and then when they move, new pottery shows up. And then the DNA, I'm saying, in DNA, we know for a fact, started in southern China, same place that the pottery did. Of course, like you said, I know that. The archaeologists may not. Then I see the DNA of nDNA move north, and I see pottery showing up. And then I see nDNA moving west, and I see pottery going west. And then I see pottery going south, and I see...
Yeah, you're saying ethnic groups carried pottery, and you have 2 lines of evidence for it. That's pretty good.
Right? Also, myths followed. We have Chinese myths in Finland. Well, since we have DNA of people moving from China to Finland, well, then that's not so shocking. So, but I explain all this stuff. Well, and these ideas, this is a problem too, is that it's not just that they went from, say, China. They went from, let's just say, paganism to me. It starts 12,000 years ago or so in Turkey, sort of southern Turkey, and also then bleeds into Syria a little bit, and Iraq a little bit, and whatever. Because it's like right toward the bottom. It's not like that. But anyways, and then it kind of goes like this and takes up almost most of Turkey and a little tiny bit more of like the other areas. And then it just by 9,000, 10,000, it shoots over to China. It shoots down into the Indus Valley from Turkey through Iran. And that's the Iran side. Then the other side of Turkey, right, sends people going out the waterway all the way to England and shoots from all the way to Germany and then England through Turkey going straight through the Balkans. And all these cultures and pottery and everything follows. So, and the religion follows. Or you can see, I would say religious behaviors, because of course, that's what I mean by saying facts. I don't know exactly what religion, I'm not claiming. I say it looks like a paganism. And it looks like it starts here, and they continue this similar but evolving thing. And then it gets the ball. Go ahead.
We should totally do a discussion on just archaeology and just myths moving around. I don't think we have time. I do need to cut this off here in the next minute or so.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm sorry.
But anyways, I was saying, my point is that, so I know a lot of, that's what I was saying about, I agree. I'm not, dude, I say they're reasoned speculations. I was just saying that.
No, it sounds really compelling to me. You've convinced me.
I would say they're so compelling. I said archaeologists are going to have to change shit. They're going to read my stuff and go, and which they already have, by the way. That's another thing, too. Don't think that I'm some atheist out here that produces this historical shit that nobody cares about. Fuck no. I've had the assistant minister, or no, assistant, whatever, of archaeology for the Ministry of Egypt share one of my archaeological memes, or whatever. That's not memes. I was just like data sheets. How's that? Pictures that have tons of data on it. But anyways, he was so impressed he shared it, publicly. And he's not an atheist, but I am. But he shared it because he thought it was cool, because I showed how a lot of these shell mounds people think are like, oh, no big deal. These natives just built, right. They built it 100 feet high randomly. Oh, people, seriously?
Damien, it's been great. Thank you for having us on.
Just go ahead and explain, about you, and so people can rehear,
Okay, yeah. We are Sqeaky and Mako. I guess we're almost Mako. He had technical difficulties that kept him from coming on too much. But we're from the Dysevidentia Podcast. We like discussing evidence and people failing to use it. So, just check us out. Just search for Dysevidentia anywhere, or dysevidentia.com, or Twitter, Reddit. We're on all the social medias.
Right.
Thanks for having us on, Damien.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I always enjoy having good conversations.
It was very vigorous. I would like to pick some of these threads up at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
And I do kind of wish I had a camera. We could have a whose beard is more majestic contest. You have the color advantage, but I definitely have the length advantage.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist, humanist, philosopher, and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, Ignosticism, atheism, anti-theism, anti-religionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel.